Hello, and a very warm welcome to the first episode of the Feeling Good mini-series. My name is Serena. I use the pronouns she, her. And in this first episode, I'm joined by Dr. Sheila Ross, a health psychologist and psychotherapist, who has a wealth of knowledge on this week's topic, concepts within mental health. Now, this is quite a broad first topic, but such an important one because we all have mental health and we all have mental health needs. In this episode, Sheila offers a definition of mental health and what underpins it. We discuss the barriers attending to mental health, the distinction between reactive and proactive approaches, as well as some practical tips on supporting wellbeing too. I should mention that Sheila and I work for the charity, the Foundation for Positive Mental Health, which promotes positive mental health skills with the audio-based Feeling Good app. We also work in primary and secondary schools with the Feeling Good for Schools programme, of which this series has stemmed from. So I think that's enough out of me. I hope you enjoy listening to this first episode. So Sheila, if you could please first introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your background.
Hi, Serena. Thanks very much for asking me here to speak to you. Yeah, so my background is in various aspects of health. Starting off, originally I did a degree in biological sciences. I did a master's in health education and health promotion at Edinburgh, and worked with an addictions education unit with that. So that was super interesting. I then did a PhD in health psychology, which was very interesting too. And I am also a psychotherapist with UKCP accreditation. So I've got a slightly eclectic background, but I bring all that together in my approach on health and helping people have good health.
Yeah, so how would you, for you, what is mental health all about? How would you define mental health?
That's a really good question. Mental health is really part of our general health. We can talk about physical health, we can talk about mental health. So it's important, I think, to see it within that. It's part of our overall health. And we all have mental health, and sometimes it can be good and sometimes it can be less good. So it's really about our ability to feel comfortable within ourselves, but in terms of how we feel about our emotions, because our mental health is really all about our ability to regulate our emotions so that we can cope well in the world. So we're able to express ourselves, express our full range of emotions, either, sad, angry ones in a good way, and positive ones too. So it's not just about being happy. It is this ability to experience and present a wide range of emotions so that we are able to cope with our situation. And I think within that is this sense of having a internal equilibrium. So we're expressing our emotions within a sort of parameters, normal parameters, so that we're not being too sort of manic or too low. It's that ability to be within the sort of normal boundary range,
right,
but not so narrow that we're numb and shut down. It's that ability, and that ability to be flexible.
Okay, so and by that, just to also further clarify, is that I guess you're talking also about this kind of like continuum of mental health. There's like the spectrum of emotions that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm talking about sort of general mental health, and when we're thinking about mental health, common mental health conditions such as anxiety and depression, I think it's really helpful to see our emotions as a continuum, so that wherever we are on this line, we are somewhere on it, and some things and sometimes we will feel more able to function well, what people might call peak performance. And sometimes events can occur that sort of pull us down the continuum towards poor functioning when we're feeling stressed, if we're feeling worried, or if we have low mood or are depressed. So I think the key message I want to say here today is that wherever we are on the continuum, it is the same set of skills we need to learn and to use to help us maintain our good mental health.
Right. So mental health skills are important, like regardless of where you sit on the continuum.
Yes, because we all will be experiencing ups and downs in life. That's completely normal.
Yes.
And at any time, 1 in 4 of the population have what's called a common mental health disorder, which is stress or depression.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be surprised if any of us can get through life without feeling depressed or anxious sometimes. So we need to know the skills to maintain our wellness, but also to also how to help us recover if we have events that knock us down, and help us spring back up. And then if we want to really exceed and excel, what can we do to help us have that peak performance?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Serena, there's a concept in health promotion called self-actualization, which is the ability to express ourselves and be the best that we can be. And that's often seen as the sort of the acme of our existence. I guess that might be debatable, but it is that sense of, if we interpret it in sense of being true to ourselves.
Right.
So we are able to express who we are and feel comfortable about that.
Wow. I mean, it's definitely a skill to master for sure.
Absolutely. It's a lifelong skill. It's a lifelong
necessarily the easiest thing.
Yeah.
I was really interested when you were talking about, the skills that can maybe bring you to the more positive health side of the continuum, and then perhaps like what are the factors that might contribute to feeling low or experiencing mental health conditions.
Yeah, good question. That's a really important question. If we look at the factors that can influence our mental health, so, in terms of sort of a negative impact, we know that it's more and more evidence shows that it's adverse events in our life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's becoming very evident. And sometimes these can happen in childhood. And I think when they happen in childhood, they're more impactful. But we can have adverse events happen in our teenage years, in our adult years. And sometimes they can stack up on each other, so that the more we have, the worse it is. So that, maybe we have an adverse event in our adulthood, but it might resonate back to something that happened in our childhood. So that can have a sort of what seems like a greater than you'd expect impact because of that resonance with earlier experiences. So it is very much things that have happened to us that affect our current mental health. But the good news is that, we did some research with Professor Fred Philippe in Canada, and we found that you can actually help yourself recover from adverse experiences, which are often sort of triggered out with our everyday awareness. And it's what's important are positive emotions, but what underpins positive emotions are our memories. And these are memories, not necessarily of happiness, but memories of autonomy, competency, and relatedness. Wow. And also a sense of purpose and meaning. These are the core attributes that give us internal mental strength, that help us define who we are, help us feel confident and build our self-esteem as we are able to remember events in our life. And we all got these because we all learned how to walk as babies. We all sort of overcame challenges in our youth. Sometimes they're hard to find, but we've all got these types of memories. The key is being able to be able to find them and build on them. And they give us our sense of self-worth and self-esteem. And that builds our positive feelings, which builds our feeling good about ourselves. Mm-hmm. And probably an important thing to say here, it allows us to accept ourselves, because none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. So it's that sense that we're able to get over that and accept ourselves. And I guess there's an element of forgiveness and acceptance in there too.
Wow. Gosh, it's so fascinating. I really love hearing about. Can you clarify again? Is it autonomy?
Yeah, autonomy is that sense of agency where we feel we have control over our lives.
Yeah.
Relatedness is how we get on with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And competencies are skills, our sense that we're able to do things. Mm-hmm. And this is all Ryan and Decky's self-determination theory, which, trying to remember, but it's certainly not new. It's not new. I think it's probably from the 90s, maybe even before, but it's what they found, and I think others would agree, underpins what we call subjective well-being. Right. But which is a subjective in that when we think about our own well-being. But also within that, it's really important to remember purpose and meaning. Purpose and meaning are really important in our lives. And I think if we're really thinking about the pandemic, we think about what was stressful. A lot of that is when we have things like competency, relatedness, and autonomy taken away, with lockdown, changing, losing skills, losing our, strategies with seeing other people. So that all impacted. But the sense of purpose and meaning is very important. And that's why it's good to reach out and help other people, because that boosts our purpose and meaning. That
provides yourself meaning as well.
Yeah.
So interesting. I'm wondering what you think some of the barriers are to attending these mental health skills or mental health in general.
Yeah, there definitely are barriers. And I think one of the things that I think happens is that people think that it's a weakness to recognize that you need help.
Yeah.
We have that sense of, I should be able to deal with this. What's wrong with me? And the more that we beat ourselves up, the more stressed we become. So it's sort of, we get in a really negative cycle. So it's that sense of, where does that come from? It's not a sign of failure if we need help to help us sort of deal with something. So I think that, and I think that's sometimes termed like sort of internal stigma. I think stigma from other people is much less than it used to be, but I think that's still there. People don't want it on their work records that if they've been depressed, which is understandable because other people might see it as a stigma. But I think that is becoming less, which is good. And I think the other thing is that sense that maybe you can't do anything about it. You have to wait. You can only do something when you were really depressed or clinically depressed or anxious. That there's that you can't. That that the sense of health promotion isn't very clear for people. I think we understand that we can look after our physical health. We know that we should eat healthy food, we should take exercise, look after our teeth, we brush them. There's things that we know we should do to look after our everyday sort of physical health. Those are very important for our mental health too, because our mind and body are very connected. but also there's others. So it's that sense of maybe there are these things that we can do for our mental health, so that if we're feeling, so that maybe rather than thinking, well, I need to go for a run to be physically fit or go for a walk because it's good for my body, you can also think, actually, it's really good for my mind as well.
Yeah.
To take some time out and do a bit of physical activity. Yeah. So it's that sense of there are little things, just very little things you can do, which can make a big difference.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting you mentioned, well, there's lots of interesting things I want to unpack of what you said, actually. Firstly, the idea of the common misconception, rather, I should say, that you almost have to be at a crisis point to have to attend to your mental health needs.
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like maybe that might also come from, we live in quite a all or nothing kind of society.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the influence of social media, we're seeing people being happy all the time.
Yeah, which kind of distorts.
Yeah. And actually, there's another misconception, is that it's normal to be happy all the time. No, it's not. Be happy all the time. It's normal that our mood fluctuates up and down.
Mm-hmm. Totally. We're human beings.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're right. This is what it is to be human.
Yeah.
You have feelings, And I think the other thing is this thing about feelings. Feelings are felt in the body. Emotions are physical. And I think people think they're all about thinking.
Right,
They're not. They're all about the body. It is that balance of the two nervous systems. In the nervous system, we have the autonomic system, which is the sympathetic and parasympathetic system. The sympathetic is our fight or flight. The parasympathetic is our rest, relax, sociable sort of side. And it's the balance of these and the flexibility, because sometimes it's appropriate that we have that sense of alertness to look after ourselves, so fight or flight or freeze. But a lot of the time that's overactive and we need to be more in the rest, relax. But it's a physical thing. We are able to control how we think, tending to our body.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I know in the upcoming podcasts, we'll be talking about certain mental health skills. But I wonder if you can give us a bit of a teaser and talk a bit about how you can then activate the parasympathetic rest and
yeah, breathing, Serena. Breathing is my mantra, and being aware of it. I mean, breathing is really it is the thing that is under our unconscious control most of the time, but it's our internal body system that we can alter consciously.
Yeah,
we can't do that with any other of our internal, our liver function, our sort of stomach juices, or maybe a little, but breathing is under our conscious control. So that gives us the ability to calm ourselves really, really quickly. Yeah. So we'll be talking about that later, because that's a key skill.
Yeah, a powerful tool to regulate your
totally
your body.
Yeah.
Amazing. So we talked a bit about the kind of how I guess society has quite a reactive approach to mental health, as in commonly people feel that you have to be in a crisis point to seek help. But I wonder if you can talk a bit more about proactive approaches within health psychology, or the distinction.
Yes, well, reactive is, as you say, reacting to something. So usually it's a problem, and that's when it becomes necessary to actually do something. It's really helpful to build up the skills before we need to use them, because they're easier to acquire. And I think that's where it's important. And also if you think of, as we develop stresses throughout the day or over several days, if they just sort of clock up stepwise, they can just and build and build and build. But if we're able to recognize what's going on, and the key is recognition as well. If we're able to recognize, then we're able to actually drop them down, and that stops them getting overwhelming. So I think that's why it's really important. The sort of the proactive is just to be monitoring and stop things building up.
Yeah, amazing. So I feel like we have time for a final question. I just thought it'd be nice to maybe reflect on what you would say to kind of teachers or parents or carers who might be struggling with their mental health just now.
Okay. There are things you can do which will help, and they might not be so major. Small things can make a big difference. So I think that's the first thing. Have hope. You are able to deal with this, sort this out, and feel better and acquire the skills. And they are very much skills that you can learn. So it's something that you can do. It's helpful if you can think of one thing that you could perhaps do differently. Like, so you could sort of say to yourself, if I had a magic wand, what would I do? For half an hour or an hour. And if that is like get a break, maybe think about how you can action that, or how you can definitely stop working at the end of the day and take some time out. Structures you can put in your life to support the change that you want to make, because sometimes we carry the worries with us, and if we can just put those aside, then that could be really helpful. So we don't need to change too much, but change the way we think. And one of the tools is, well, put aside a time to think about the worry. Don't think about it all the time. Just put aside a time. So there's a lot of little strategies which are very, very helpful. Perhaps another important thing to say is to reach out to people. I think, as I said, most people have an understanding of what it's like to feel overwhelmed sometimes, and can help. And by sharing that, you can help find strategies and feel better. So yeah, it's sort of hard. It's there's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of help. There's a lot of understanding. So take some time for yourself and think about one thing that you can do.
Yeah, and it's interesting you saying it's kind of almost there can be just like subtle changes in lifestyle as well. It doesn't have to be all
yeah, that's right. Exactly. Because there's probably lots of things that are good in your current situation. Yeah. It's just that balance has got out. It's got imbalance. So
amazing.
Take a bit of time if you can, or find people that can help you have a little bit of time to think about the one thing that you can do.
Yeah, amazing. And I'm definitely I might try out that the magic wand exercise for myself.
Yeah, it's always handy, because I guess knowing what we need is not as easy as saying it.
Yes,
It's difficult to work out what we need, but that sense of, well, hey, if anything was possible, what actually would help you right now?
No, I think it's a really good exercise, because like you say, it gives you that awareness or of your needs, because sometimes it might be hard to actually know what it is you need, but that's a nice way of thinking about it. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Sheila. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you today. We will be talking about some mental health skills in an upcoming podcast, which is really exciting. So just thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. I think it's so important, and look forward to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.